are so many stories behind the names you see on schools, parks, other places around San Antonio.
The KSAT Explains team started asking who were those people behind these names. We previously aired a first round of San Antonio namesakes, but there were so many more stories to tell. So from George Brackenridge to Frank Tejeda, here's KSAT Explains San Antonio Namesakes Part 2. Stinson Airport holds a history of female firsts.
So Catherine Stinson fell in love with aviation as a young girl.
She was the 4th licensed female pilot in the United States. She was the first female pilot to be certified to fly the U.S. mail. She was remarkable.
Nobody wanted to train her. She was a girl and she was small.
She finally found someone willing, a Chicago-based flight instructor named Max Lilly.
And from all accounts, she was a natural. Within 4 flights, she soloed.
That talent made her money as a stunt pilot, performing in air shows across the country. Her younger sister, Marjorie, learned to fly too, and the sisters opened a flight school.
They're not from San Antonio. They were from Arkansas, but Max Lilly, after his training in Chicago, convinced her to come to San Antonio to start a flying school.
Why did he pick San Antonio?
Well, in later years, Catherine Stinson said San Antonio has the best flying weather in the world.
The flight school started at Fort Sam Houston, though later moved to San Antonio's south side, where Stinson Airport is today. The girl's mother ran the business, while Marjorie did the teaching. Catherine continued to perform and recruit, and their brother Eddie was the mechanic. Then came World War I.
Canadians were in it from the very beginning because they're part of British Commonwealth. They knew they were going to have to come further south in North America to train pilots in large numbers.
San Antonio offered that excellent weather and an excellent teacher.
By the time the war ended in 1918, Marjorie had been credited with having trained no fewer than 85 of the combat fighter pilots who flew for the RCAF, and she trained them all here at Stinson Field.
When the U.S. entered the war, both Marjorie and Catherine applied to fly as military pilots in Europe twice. They were denied both times, but Catherine went anyway.
She couldn't fly, but she drove an ambulance, bringing wounded soldiers back from the front to the hospitals.
Dory Miller was a seaman who came from Waco, Texas, that just happened to be at the right place on the right day, or some would say the wrong place on the right day.
Doris, or Dory Miller, was a Navy cook aboard the USS West Virginia on December 7, 1941. The day the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor.
He came up from the dining facilities and manned a machine gun and shot down numerous Japanese fighter planes.
A weapon he'd never used before, because back then, black sailors did not get the same training as white sailors.
And what he did as a cook and picking up arms in order to protect our nation. Once again, you have an individual whose work and dedication to this country, second to none. He put his life on the line to protect this country.
Dory Miller survived the attack on Pearl Harbor, but died 2 years later when the aircraft carrier he was on was torpedoed in the Pacific. One of the places bearing his name in San Antonio, Dory Miller Elementary in SAISD, is closing down.
We just need to be very careful that we're not erasing Black history again.
George Brackenridge was born in Indiana and moved with his family to Texas. They were seeking their fortune, I suppose.
George found his trading, or perhaps smuggling, cotton during the Civil War.
The Union Army blockaded the Texas Gulf Coast, so in order to trade cotton, you needed to ship cotton out through Mexico.
After the war, George Brackenridge moved to San Antonio.
He was able to establish 2 banks, the San Antonio National Bank and the First National in Austin.
He also owned the first water supply company in the city. The original pump house still stands in the park that bears Brackenridge's name. He became known as a local philanthropist.
A lot of the different initiatives he supported, again, were in education, education opportunities for women, for African Americans.
He was also anti-alcohol and a big supporter of prohibition. So when he donated hundreds of acres to create Brackenridge Park,
He had several stipulations, one of which there would be no alcoholic beverages allowed in his park. So which brings us into Emma Kaler.
Otto Kaler was a brewer. He came to Texas from his home in St. Louis.
That's where he married a woman named Emma. Otto started the San Antonio Brewing Association, which later became the Pearl Brewing Company.
You know the story of the three Emmas?
But tell it to me.
Emma was in an accident and she needed a nurse. He hired a nurse named Emmy, and Emmy had a friend named Emma, and this became a complicated situation for Otto.
Okay, now time for some tea. So Otto starts having an affair with Emmy. He sets Emmy and her friend Emma up in a house. Then one day in 1914, Otto goes over to visit, and Emma, the friend and also a nurse, well, she shoots and kills Otto.
And so we have a drink here called the three Emmas, and don't drink three of them. That could kill you.
Emma Kaler took over the Pearl Brewing Company, and when Prohibition began and the government banned alcohol, she made it work.
They were doing everything from fixing cars to making soda waters to ice to you name it, just to keep the doors open.
And Pearl was the only Texas brewery to survive Prohibition.
We are standing in Kaler Park, not to be confused, but often confused with Brackenridge Park.
A year after Otto's death, Emma Kaler donated 15 acres to the city for Kaler Park, right across the river from Brackenridge Park.
With the stipulation, revenge time, that alcoholic beverages could be served there.
And that's still true today. Most people consider what was Kaler Park part of Brackenridge Park now. But if you have an event with alcohol at the park, it's got to be here at Kaler Pavilion.
He literally was a man of the people. Came out of the neighborhood, was a hero.
He was from the South Side here in San Antonio.
He dropped out of Harlandale High School at age 17.
In his early years, he felt like he was, perhaps a little wayward and had gotten in trouble.
Frank Tejeda then joined the Marine Corps, and everything changed. Tejeda fought in Vietnam, was wounded in combat, and awarded the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and after his death, the Silver Star. Despite dropping out of high school, he graduated from St. Mary's University.
And then went on to Yale and Harvard for masters.
No Mexican American had won state representative race in the southeast part of the city.
But Tejeda did. He served in the Texas House and Texas Senate, where he was known to never back down.
He would get it beat through this avenue, take it this way. Beat this avenue, take it another way.
He was elected to U.S. Congress in 1993.
He's a real advocate, too, in the 1990s when San Antonio is going through some of the different discussions about some of the base closures.
Tejeda fought to keep Brooks and Kelly Air Force bases open.
The number one quality was complete and total loyalty.
During his second term in Congress, Tejeda was diagnosed with brain cancer.
He didn't slow down his congressional work. He didn't, take time off and talk about his disease. He kept working.
Frank Tejeda died at the age of 51.
It's just a tragedy that a brain tumor took him away from us. Right. Because I think there's almost no limit to what he could have become.
But his legacy, like so many others in San Antonio, lives on.
And there are so many more stories to tell, too. You can watch our first San Antonio namesake story on demand. In case you didn't catch it here on air, just scan this QR code, which will take you to the KSAT Explains page on KSAT12. We'll be right back. Around America now, Senate Democrats are urging the federal government to require EpiPens on commercial flights. Senators Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer, and Ed Markey wrote a letter to the FAA saying it has a glaring gap in its in-flight emergency kits. The FAA standards only require airlines carry epinephrine in syringes designed for a cardiac emergency. According to a 2018 study, in-flight medical emergencies happen on about 1 in every 604 flights, and about 2% of those are allergic reactions. Passengers can bring their own EpiPen onto planes.
Kind of surprised they didn't have them on there already. All right, food prices finally rising slower than inflation. Grocery store prices up just under 2% for the year. That's much lower than the overall inflation rate of 3.1%. There are still a few aisles where you'll find exceptions, though. Frozen juice up about 19%. Beef prices up 8.7%. The cost to eat out also still rising faster than inflation due to rising labor costs. Restaurant prices are up 5.3%.
Look outside with live cam. Those changes coming our way tomorrow, but it sounds like just don't expect a whole lot in the rain gauge, Adam.
That's the key there. And you were talking about inflation. You know it is free from me this time of year.
What's that?
Thermometer ornaments, baby! Yeah! Tristan Stout of San Antonio, the winner of a homemade thermometer ornament. You go to KSAT.com/thermometer to enter that drawing. But yes, also a little bit of moisture in the rain gauge tomorrow, just a little bit, and then we'll probably add more to it on Friday. Plan that out for you and talk about the temperature trend that we're expecting toward Christmas in just a bit.
All right, so we're in for a weather change. Would like to say it's going to be beneficial, widespread rain, but we can't exactly say that right now, can we, Adam?
Not very beneficial tomorrow. Not really a drought denter. We'll add a little bit more as we get into Friday. It's just more of a damp and cool day tomorrow. Additional rain likely Friday, and then a cool and quiet weekend. And then temperatures turn a bit. Let's take a look at the big picture in terms of temperatures. And we're mostly 50s and 60s in Texas. It cools off up to the north, and they're going to have a cold night up there. The reason I'm so vested in these temperatures up north is because I got my ice fishing planned for January. Right about there. And so we need some good solid ice. The clear ice is the best ice. You need the clear, calm nights, 0 degrees. It's not the best ice making weather. There is some colder air in Canada. It's just not steadily plunging southward. It's having some quick glancing blows, and that's it, kind of like the cold fronts we've had. Now let's fast forward. Climate Prediction Center, the 8 to 10 day temperature outlook, which includes Christmas, odds favor above average temperatures, and quite a bit above average for pretty much the entire lower 48 here. And then I do think following that, there will be a little bit of cooler air starting to push back southward. But until then, we're looking at temperatures at to slightly below average in terms of highs here. 54, we'll be in the 50s all day tomorrow. Let's just put it that way. 62 Thursday, 60 Friday, back down into the 50s Saturday, and then we climb back into the 60s for Sunday into next week. So nothing too warm, nothing too cold in the days ahead, just on the cool side. Obviously, we need rain. We all know that. We still have the extreme drought here. San Antonio, then up I-35 and into the hill country. It's not as bad as it was. Remember, this used to be all exceptional drought. So at least we've improved a category over the past several weeks, but we still need more rainfall. We could use it. And unfortunately, we're still some of the worst drought all across the state. Yeah, West Texas has a little bit of extreme, but in terms of aerial coverage, it's here. San Antonio all the way up through Austin. Our friends in Louisiana, extreme and exceptional drought. New Mexico, deep drought. We're not the only ones dealing with it. Actually, we're in better shape than several other surrounding states. Tomorrow, scattered to widespread light rain. That's the key. And we don't have the actual light rain showers. Probably some drizzle just to keep it damp outside. Futurecast does a good job here. The low clouds are filling in, and well, they're going to stay intact tonight. And then early tomorrow morning, we'll just have some hit or miss showers before sunrise. After sunrise, they become more numerous. So for the morning commute, just anticipate the potential for delays because of the wet roadways and road spray and then falling rain periodically. And that'll be through the lunch hour, but then into the afternoon, 2-3 o'clock. Not seeing as much in terms of rain or drizzle out there, mainly just low clouds, and the evening commute should not be as problematic in terms of wet roadways. Rainfall potential tomorrow, I think 1/10 to maybe 2/10 of an inch. Model here is saying 2/10 of an inch around town. I think that would be the high end, but then we'll add to it a little bit, potentially another 1/2 inch to an inch from this system here that's near Salt Lake City that's headed our way, and that's going to give us the showers as we get into Friday. So tomorrow, all day in the 50s, a cool, damp day. Umbrella, jacket, near 60 Thursday and Friday. And though we will cool off, at least we'll be a little above freezing, mid to upper 30s by the end of the weekend into next week. For morning lows, that is. In the morning.
Yes, in the morning.
In the morning.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Our recap after the break.
Tonight, a man is dead in what San Antonio police are calling a love triangle shooting. This happened outside of a post office along Austin Highway today. According to SAPD, 3 people got into an argument when 2 men involved pulled out guns. One of the men died. The other was taken into custody. The woman was not hurt. SAPD says there is a chance the shooting is ruled self-defense.
The San Antonio man accused of killing his parents in Bexar County and 4 more people in Austin facing new charges tonight. Travis County jail records show Shane James Jr. is being held on 10 charges. Some include aggravated assault, mass shooting, and 2 counts of aggravated assault of a public servant. These are on top of the 8 other charges initially filed against him that include 4 counts of capital murder.
A man convicted last week in the murder of a 4-year-old boy was sentenced to 70 years in prison. It took the jury around 2 hours to come up with that sentence for Quentin Phillips. Phillips is one of 3 men accused in the 2017 murder of 4-year-old D'Urvion Whitley. The other 2 men charged in this case are expected to have their trials next year. And that's your 60-second recap.
All right, look at the temperature trend tomorrow. 50s all day is what you can plan for. So a cool day, of course, with that dampness, especially through the early afternoon. 56 in the morning, then we're down to the lower 50s by the afternoon, and a cool stretch here on the way.
All right, thanks, Adam. And thank you for watching the News at 6.
See you back here on the Night Beat at 10.